Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be installing an amplifier and subwoofer in this 2007 Ford F-150. Let's get started. Now, regardless of what type of sub or amp you decide to put in your truck at home, you're going to need an amplifier wiring kit. What we're going to do is show you how to install all the wiring necessary to run an amplifier and sub in this 07 F-150. Now, in your wiring kit, you can expect, generally speaking, power wire, ground wire, you have RCA cables, and a remote turn-on wire, as well as an inline fuse of some kind, and terminated ends, zip ties, grommets, boots, everything like that in the little accessory bag. So essentially here what we need to do is run this from the battery to the location of the amplifier through an inline fuse to protect that wiring. We also have a ground here of the same gauge, which will ground at a nice clean location where the amplifier is going to be. A remote turn-on wire triggers the amplifier to turn on when the radio is on, and we'll show you how to hook that one up. And this RCA cable essentially takes your signal from the radio, from the subwoofer output on the radio, or your line out converter, or wherever is providing that signal, and sends it to the amplifier so the amp knows what to play. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to jump underneath the hood and begin prepping our wire route for our power wire through the firewall into the cabin of the truck. Now here under the hood, with the hood open, our battery's on the passenger side. Now the stud that we're going to have to go to is this guy right on here. Now we're going to clean that up before obviously we hook anything up, but we'll connect our power wire to that through that inline fuse. We're going to have the fuse as close to the battery as possible, and then a lot of ways through the firewall. There's one right down here. Let me turn on the light for you. There's a grommet down there where existing wiring is going through. We may use that location or find an alternative there, but that's one option certainly that you can use. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull out the battery box so we can access that grommet down there. There could be other various grommets on that side, but we're running our amplifier to the passenger front seat area. So we don't want to run wired all the way over through the firewall and come all the way back. So this is the shorter distance. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, pull the battery out. It gives us the space and access we need to access those grommets. Alright, so I just lifted the battery box just out of the way a tad, and we have that grommet there that essentially here, so let me pull this harness out of the way for you, poked a hole through the outside of it using just a screwdriver. I fished a wire through that hole, push that on through, up underneath, that's where it came down, just like so. So we're going to pull our wire through using that hanger. All right, with that wire through, what we've done is prepped our power wire, kind of wrapped it around. We're going to use that to just feed it through the firewall. Again, this is out of the way of that harness going through. We want to stay as far away as that as possible. We also kind of lube that up with some soap and water so it slips through pretty easily. And we're going to go ahead into the cab of the truck and start pulling the wire through. All right, so we just easily pull that on through. When you loop that up, it just slips on through pretty easily. So we're going to pull all the length of wire that we don't need into the cabin, and then we'll leave just enough here so we can wire up our fuse holder up to the battery. Here's where it came out. We pulled it down through. It just came out right up there. All right, so we got the battery all back in, everything reassembled with the battery box here. Now we're gonna snag that bolt down there that holds in our battery and make a little mount for a fuse holder so it sits right there. Then we'll have a nice short length that'll go to the positive post of the battery. So let's head over to the bench and start building a fuse holder mount. So we've started prepping our wire. Now obviously the negative's off the battery so we can hook it up like this. But just so you can see our fuse holder, we went ahead and put wire ferrules in there, put some heat shrink over those ferrules, and then as this closes, it's gonna seal up and around the wire just to minimize any potential for corrosion. And then we'll pull the excess wire through the firewall, get everything zip tied. Then at that point, we'll be done under the hood besides reattaching the negative on the battery once the amplifier has been totally installed. We had to kind of do an audible. We changed our fuse holder design because we forgot we have a battery cover. So we just mounted it right to the battery cover. It's not in the battery, it's just in the cover itself. It's nice and sturdy. We got our mount right there, went up to the battery. What we need to do, I threw the positive on the battery just so I can move the seat, then we'll have to take it back off again. But really at this point, we're done underneath the hood, and let's start running wire to underneath the seat. All right, so we got our power wire run here, and now we got to find a good ground. So I pulled the B-pillar off. It's just held on with clips, and what we're going to do is clean this area up, and we're going to actually tap and put a bolt there. Just a good, clean amplifier grounding location. So we have a wire brush, and we're just cleaning that up. All right, so we got a nice big bolt in there. Paint's all cleaned up. We're at the ground underneath the carpet. Now we got to figure out where we want our amplifier, and we're going to put some ABS plastic to hold it in place so it just doesn't slide around up underneath there. And once we kind of determine where the amplifier is, then we'll make the space to run our power and ground right to the terminals on the amp. Then we got to run speaker wire from the output of the amp to the box that'll be back here. And then finally, we need to do RCAs and a remote turn on wire up to the aftermarket radio. Okay, so we got our amp mounted, we got our board cut, put a little hole through it, run our wires up through the carpet, so we'll hook them up, speaker wire, ground and power, and then we'll do RCs and remote turn on wire through the factory hole and running it towards the front so we can get it all hooked up. So at this point, I'm gonna start hooking up the amplifier and start running the RCAs. Okay, so we got the amp mounted there. We'll have to rearrange it as we put it down just so it clears obviously the foot there. We got our power and ground all hooked up, and we got our speaker wire hooked up. And then we got our speaker wires run through the slit in the carpet, and we're gonna stay on this side underneath the carpet to head towards the dash. Same with our remote turn on wire. Run it up underneath, and we'll run it with the RCAs, and we'll show you where that comes out here in a minute. But we're gonna go ahead and get the seat down and kind of mounted just so we're able to mocking up where our wire is going to run in front of it. All right, so here we are in the truck. Really at this point in time, we need to install our RCAs and a remote turn on wire to the back of the radio. We've run them just down along the carpet, and they kind of come out by the passenger footwell area. Now we need to route them up to our doubled in. I removed the screen just to give us the access we need. Now it's pretty straightforward to get into this. You can actually just use your fingers to pop that down just enough so we can get in there. And then from that point we got 4 7mm bolts that we need to remove. Okay, so with the radio out, we're going to fish our wires up into the stereo cavity, plug the RCAs into the subwoofer output, and it looks like the blue-white wire on the back of the radio is our remote turn-on wire for our amplifier. So we're going to connect a remote turn-on wire to that blue-white wire. All right, so we fished our hanger through there. It comes out to the bottom of the dash, and we're going to pull our wire up into the cavity. All right, so we fed our wires up into the dash. We had extra RCAs, so we zip-tied and bundled that together. Hooked our remote turn-on wire to the blue-white wire on the back of the radio. At this point, we can go ahead and reinstall our head unit. We're all done underneath the hood. Negative's back on the battery. We can shut the hood, so we got the radio back in. That's all good to go. All our panels are all back on. We're going to do a final vacuum and clean. But essentially, that's all reassembled Back here, we still need to do a little bit of vacuuming, but that's all mounted there. We got our amp all set, gain set with the DD1 SMD. That's all nice and clean. Then our subwoofers here, we can show you the subs that we're going with. If I can get some good light for you. For the subwoofers, we have some Polk audio. Got those little 210s all hooked up. If you want more info on this box and sub combo, we'll have more info in the description for you. That's about it for this video. If you have any questions on what we did here, post a comment below. We appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again for the support. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time. We will see you in the next video.